Imagine a spider catching a fly in a web, only for a lizard to suddenly rush in and snap up the spider. You are watching energy transfer from one organism to another. But trace that energy back far enough, and every jump, flight, and strike is powered by the exact same source, the sun. Look at this harvest in Uganda. That maize is a producer. It captures the sun's energy directly through photosynthesis and packages it into food. This is the starting point for a simple food chain. If we map out what happens to that stored energy, we get a straight line sequence. The maize is eaten by a primary consumer, a grasshopper. The grasshopper is caught by a secondary consumer, a chicken. Finally, a tertiary consumer, like a human, eats the chicken. When you draw this chain, you must use arrows. The most common mistake in biology exams is pointing the arrow from the predator to the prey. The arrow actually represents the direction the energy flows. It means gives energy to. The maize's energy flows into the grasshopper. A food chain is a biological map tracing the exact path of solar energy as it passes from a plant through the ecosystem. We can assign a number to the position each organism holds in this chain. This is its trophic level. The rule is strictly fixed. Trophic level 1 is always the producer. From there, the primary consumer is level 2, the secondary is level 3, and so on. This chart shows the energy available at each step. As you move from level 1 to level 2, most of the energy doesn't make it. About 90% of it is lost as heat, movement, and waste. Only a tiny fraction is actually stored in the animal's body to be passed on to the next predator. By the time you reach a top predator at trophic level 4, there is very little solar energy left. Because their food yields so little total energy, large carnivores like lions have to sleep up to 20 hours a day to conserve their strength. This massive drop in energy at each step sets a strict physical limit on nature. There simply isn't enough energy left at the top to support a fifth or sixth predator in the sequence. The further an organism sits from the producer, the less total solar energy is available to sustain it, restricting the overall size of the ecosystem. In reality, feeding relationships are rarely a single straight line. An animal like the Uganda kobe doesn't rely entirely on one specific plant, and it is hunted by multiple predators. We have to expand our map. This diagram shows a food web. We start with acacia trees and savanna grass at the bottom. The arrows flow upward to herbivores like zebras, cobes, and grasshoppers. From there, the energy branches out to warthogs, toads, and snakes, creating a complex, interconnected network. At the very top of this network sit the apex predators, like the martial eagle, pulling their highly diluted energy from multiple intersecting chains below. There is one group often left off these maps, the decomposers, like fungi and bacteria. A common mistake is placing them only at the end of the chain. In truth, decomposers act on every single level, breaking down dead plants, herbivores, and carnivores alike to return nutrients to the soil. A food web reveals a resilient structure. With multiple interconnected options, an animal can usually switch to a different food source if one specific prey population dips. Let's test how this interconnectivity works. Imagine a farmer sprays a strong pesticide near their maize crop. It wipes out all the local insects, completely removing grasshoppers and caterpillars from the web. Based on this diagram, what will happen to the toad in chicken populations? Pause the video and trace the lines to make your prediction. Because toads are strictly carnivorous, their only energy path is cut off. They will face starvation or be forced to migrate. Chickens are omnivores. They lose the insects, but they can survive by eating the maize directly, though they might suffer a drop in protein. Erasing even the smallest insect severs the established energy supply lines for the rest of the ecosystem. We can stack these food chains into a mathematical model called a pyramid of numbers. At the wide base, you have thousands of blades of grass. In the middle, 50 zebras. At the tiny peak, you have one lion. The pyramid takes this upright shape because of the energy loss we discussed earlier. It requires a massive number of producers at the bottom to offset the energy lost of heat and waste, just to keep a single predator alive at the top. There is an exception. If the primary producer is exceptionally large, like a single massive mango tree, that one plant can feed thousands of primary consumers, like fruit bats. This creates an inverted pyramid, narrow at the bottom and wide in the middle. Let's review the core rules. The arrow points in the direction the energy flows. Trophic level 1 is always your producer, and because 90% of energy is lost at each step, population sizes typically shrink as you move up the pyramid. Protecting our environment requires managing this balance. It means keeping this entire invisible web of energy intact so it can continue to flow and support all life.